Listen carefully, because what I am about to say is not something most people ever realize until it's too late. There is a stage Allah brings a person into that looks like nothing on the outside, but means everything on the inside. And if you are in this stage, you were never meant to rush through it. You were meant to recognize it. Right now, Allah may not be changing your situation. He may not be fixing everything yet. He may not be answering you the way you expected, but He is doing something far more serious. He is changing you. And this change is so quiet that even the people closest to you won't notice it. But you feel it. You feel different, yet you can't explain why. You feel less attached, yet you didn't choose detachment. You feel calmer, yet life hasn't become easier. And that's where most people get confused, because they think this feeling means they are losing something. But what if this feeling actually means Allah is raising you? What if the silence you're feeling is not emptiness, but preparation? What if the reason things don't excite you anymore is because Allah is closing a chapter you were never meant to live in forever? Stay with me, because in a few moments you're going to realize something shocking. Why Allah removes the taste before He removes the thing. Why He makes your heart uncomfortable before He moves your life. Why this phase feels lonely, slow and confusing, and why it is actually one of the most dangerous moments to walk away from. By the end of this message, you will know exactly what Allah is doing with you right now, and why leaving this stage early would delay everything He planned for you. Don't skip, because this message will only make sense to the person who was meant to hear it. Allah removes the taste before He removes the thing. Sometimes the clearest sign that Allah is guiding you higher is not something dramatic. It is something very quiet. It is when the heart changes before the life changes. You still wake up in the same place. You still talk to the same people. You still hold the same things in your hands. But inside, something has shifted. What once made your heart race no longer does. What once felt exciting now feels heavy. What once filled your thoughts now leaves you feeling strangely empty, and you don't understand why. Because you didn't ask for this feeling. You didn't make a promise to change. You didn't force yourself to stop loving. The change came on its own, slowly, quietly, without permission, and that is why it feels confusing. You ask yourself, why don't I feel the same anymore? You try to bring the feeling back. You try to remind yourself why you loved it. You try to reconnect with the old excitement, but it doesn't return. Not because you are broken, not because you are ungrateful, not because you are cold, but because Allah touched your heart gently. Allah knows something you do not yet see. He knows what staying attached would have done to you. He knows how deeply it would have hurt later. He knows how painful the ending would have been if it came suddenly. So Allah prepares you first. He does not rip things out of your heart. He does not shock you without mercy. He softens the attachment. He weakens the desire. He slowly reduces the taste so the heart can breathe, so the heart can survive, so the heart can heal before the wound even appears. This is Allah being kind to you. Many people think mercy only looks like getting what you want. But sometimes mercy looks like not wanting what would destroy you. You may still have the thing in your life. You may still be near it. You may still touch it, but it no longer controls you. And that scares you at first. Because you think, if I don't feel strongly, does that mean something is wrong with me? No. It means Allah is slowly freeing you without hurting you. It means Allah is protecting your heart from a pain it is not ready to face. There are endings Allah does not announce. There are chapters Allah closes silently, not because they were bad, but because they were finished. And when Allah knows an ending is coming, He does not leave you unprepared. He removes the sweetness first. He makes the heart calm before the separation. So when something eventually leaves, you do not collapse. You may feel sad. You may feel quiet, but you are not destroyed. This is how Allah looks after those He loves. Think about how gentle this really is. Allah does not say, let me break your heart so you learn. No. He says, let me protect your heart before it breaks. So He slowly changes how you feel. The conversations feel different. The attachment feels lighter. The excitement feels distant. And one day you realize you are not fighting anymore. You are not forcing yourself to hold on. You are not forcing yourself to let go. You are simply calm. And that calmness is a sign. It is Allah preparing your heart for what is coming next. Because when Allah leads you higher, He cannot carry you there with heavy attachments weighing you down. So He gently loosens them. This does not mean what you loved was wrong. It simply means it cannot go where Allah is taking you. Some things are not sinful. Some people are not evil. Some desires are not haram, but they are not meant to stay forever. And Allah, in His mercy, does not let you find this out through shock. He lets you find out through peace. One day you look back and realize you are no longer afraid of losing it. Not because you stopped caring, but because Allah already took care of your heart. This is why the pain you feared never came. This is why the loss you imagined did not destroy you. Because Allah removed the taste before He removed the thing. So when it finally leaves or fades or changes, you are still standing, still breathing, still trusting, still connected to Allah. This is not weakness. This is strength built quietly. This is not loss. This is Allah saving you without hurting you. This is Allah guiding you higher without breaking your heart. And if you are feeling this right now, that calm where there used to be fire, that quiet where there used to be noise, that distance where there used to be attachment, do not panic. Allah is not emptying your heart. He is making space for peace, for growth, for something that fits the person He is shaping you to become. And Allah never removes something unless He knows your heart will be safer without it. Your heart no longer feels at home where it once settled. Sometimes the way Allah moves you higher is not by taking you somewhere new. It is by making where you are no longer feel like home. You wake up one day and nothing has changed on the outside. Same people, same places, same routine. But inside, your heart feels different. The place where you once felt comfortable now feels heavy. The conversations you used to enjoy now feel empty. The gatherings that once made you feel alive now leave you feeling tired, and you don't know how to explain it because nothing is wrong. No one hurt you. No argument happened. No big reason appeared. Yet your heart feels restless. You sit among people, but you feel alone. You smile, but your soul feels distant. And this confuses you. You start asking yourself, what's wrong with me? Why don't I feel happy here anymore? Why do I feel uncomfortable where I once belonged? Listen carefully. This is not you becoming difficult. This is not you becoming ungrateful. This is not you looking down on anyone. This is Allah moving your heart forward. When Allah plans to raise you, He does not always change your location. Sometimes He changes your fit. Just like clothes that once fit perfectly start to feel tight as you grow, certain environments begin to feel small when your soul expands. And Allah allows this feeling not to punish you, but to guide you. Because if your heart stayed comfortable, you would never move. So Allah introduces discomfort, not to hurt you, but to wake you up. You may try to ignore the feeling. You tell yourself, be patient, be thankful, don't overthink. And you try to force yourself to feel how you used to feel, but you can't. Because Allah has already shifted something inside you, and no amount of pretending can undo what Allah has written. This discomfort is not sudden, it builds slowly. First, you feel quiet in places where you used to talk freely. Then you feel drained after conversations that once energized you. Then you feel a strange heaviness even before you arrive. And you wonder, why does my heart resist this now? Because Allah is teaching your heart that not everything you once settled in is meant to stay forever. And that lesson is painful only when you fight it. Think about this gently. Allah never removes comfort without replacing it with growth. When your heart no longer feels at home, it means your soul has changed. You see things differently now. You value different things now. You crave peace more than noise. And what once matched your heart no longer matches who you are becoming. This is why forcing yourself to stay feels exhausting. Because Allah is not asking you to survive there anymore. He is preparing you for a different level. Many people misunderstand this stage. They think, maybe I'm ungrateful, or Maybe I'm being tested for my patience. But sometimes this is not a test of patience. It is a sign of transition. Allah does not want you to stay where your soul is shrinking. So He makes staying uncomfortable. Not suddenly, not harshly, but slowly enough that you have time to adjust, time to understand, time to detach, time to trust Him. You may feel guilty for no longer enjoying what you once loved. But remember this, outgrowing something does not mean it was bad. It simply means it served its purpose. And Allah, in His wisdom, knows when a chapter has ended, even if you are still reading the same page. So He nudges your heart forward. That restlessness you feel is not confusion, it is direction. That discomfort you feel is not weakness, it is guidance. Allah is saying, there is more for you than this. But He says it quietly through the heart. And when you finally accept it, something beautiful happens. You stop forcing yourself to belong where you no longer fit. You stop explaining your distance. You stop fighting your feelings. You allow Allah to lead you. And peace slowly replaces guilt. Not because everything is clear, but because your heart trusts Allah. If you are in this stage right now, where familiar places feel unfamiliar, where comfort feels missing, where your heart feels restless, do not panic. Allah is not abandoning you. He is repositioning you. He is moving you without dragging you. He is leading you higher without breaking you. And one day, when you look back, you will understand why your heart could not stay where it once settled. Because Allah had already written something better ahead. Allah sharpens your awareness without making you harsh. Sometimes Allah lifts you, not by changing your situation, but by changing how clearly you see it. Nothing around you looks different at first. The world keeps moving the same way. People act the same way, but you do not see things the same anymore. Your heart becomes alert, not restless, not angry, just aware. You begin to notice things you never noticed before. Words that once sounded normal now feel heavy. Jokes that once made you laugh now feel uncomfortable. Certain behavior that you ignored for years suddenly stands out clearly. And this awareness surprises you because you didn't ask for it. You didn't study for it. You didn't train yourself to see more. It simply arrived quietly. And at first, it feels overwhelming. You wonder, why am I noticing everything now? Why do small things affect me more? Why do I feel sensitive to things that never bothered me before? Listen carefully. This is not Allah hardening your heart. This is Allah protecting it. When Allah plans to raise you, He sharpens your awareness, so you stop hurting yourself without realizing it. Before this, you could sit in harmful spaces and not feel the damage. You could accept words that slowly wounded your soul. You could tolerate environments that quietly pulled you away from Allah. But now, your heart reacts quickly, not with anger, not with hatred, with clarity. You don't feel the need to attack people. You just feel the need to protect yourself. And that is an important difference. This awareness does not make you harsh. It makes you honest. Honest about what drains you. Honest about what weakens your iman. Honest about what steals your peace. Before, you survived by ignoring. Now, Allah is teaching you to survive by understanding. This is growth, and growth always feels uncomfortable at first. There is something very gentle about how Allah does this. He does not suddenly expose everything to you at once. He opens your eyes slowly. First, He lets you feel uncomfortable. Then, He lets you understand why. Then, He gives you the strength to respond calmly. You stop reacting loudly. You stop explaining yourself. You simply step back. And people may misunderstand this. They may think you became distant. They may think you became serious. They may think you changed. They are not wrong. You did change, but not in a bad way. Allah removed your blindness, not your softness. You still have mercy. You still have kindness. You still have love, but now it has boundaries. You no longer laugh at things that harm your heart. You no longer stay silent when your soul feels unsafe. You no longer ignore red flags just to keep peace with people. This awareness is not there to make you lonely. It is there to make you safe. Because Allah does not elevate someone and leave their heart exposed. He teaches them how to guard it. And this stage can feel heavy because once you see clearly, you cannot pretend anymore. You cannot unsee what Allah showed you. But Allah never gives clarity without also giving strength. Slowly, you learn to choose peace without becoming cold. You learn to walk away without hatred. You learn to remain kind without allowing harm. That balance, that calm awareness is a sign Allah is preparing you for a higher level, because higher levels require stronger hearts. And stronger hearts are not loud. They are steady. If you are in this phase right now where you notice more, feel more, and understand more, do not be afraid. Allah is not making you difficult. He is making you discerning. He is teaching you what deserves access to your heart and what does not. And when Allah sharpens your awareness, it is because He trusts you with a deeper level of responsibility. Responsibility over your iman, responsibility over your peace, responsibility over your future. This is not isolation. This is preparation. This is Allah guiding you higher by teaching you how to see clearly without losing your gentleness. Your du'as feel delayed, but your character is being built. There comes a time in life when you raise your hands to Allah more sincerely than ever before. Your heart is present. Your tears are real. Your need is honest. You ask Allah again and again, and yet nothing changes. Days pass, weeks pass, months pass. The door you knock on remains closed, and slowly a quiet question forms inside your heart. Ya Allah, why is this taking so long? This moment is one of the heaviest moments a believer can experience, because you are not lazy, you are not careless, you are not distant from Allah. You are praying, you are trying, you are holding on, and still the answer does not come. This is where many hearts break. But this is also where Allah is working the deepest. When Allah delays the answer, it is not because He did not hear you. Allah heard your dua. Before your lips finished forming the words, He heard it. Before your tears reached your cheeks, Allah is Al-Sami. He hears everything. So the delay is not silence. It is attention. Allah delays not to test how badly you want something, but to shape who you are becoming while you wait. Because sometimes the dua you are making is not meant to change your situation first. It is meant to change you. At first, waiting feels painful. You feel ignored. You feel forgotten. You feel confused. You look around and see others receiving easily what you have been begging for. And your heart asks quietly, why them and not me? This is a dangerous moment if you misunderstand it, because Allah is not being unfair. He is being precise. What He is building inside you requires time, and character cannot be rushed. Think about this gently. If Allah gave you everything immediately, your heart would never learn patience. If every dua was answered instantly, your soul would never learn trust. If every door opened quickly, you would never learn reliance on Allah. So Allah allows delay, not to break you, but to deepen you. During the waiting, something changes. You start speaking to Allah differently. Your du'as become more honest. Your words become softer. At first, you ask for the outcome. Later, you ask for strength. At first, you beg for change. Later, you beg for peace. This is growth. This is Allah shaping your heart to carry what is coming, because some blessings do not just change your life. They change your responsibility. They change your test. They change your direction, and Allah will not give you something that your character cannot protect. So He builds the patience. He builds humility. He builds surrender. You may feel weak during this time, but in reality, Allah is making you strong quietly. You may feel unseen, but Allah is watching every moment, every tear you wipe away, every prayer you repeat, every time you choose hope over despair. Nothing is wasted. Not a single dua is ignored. Sometimes Allah delays because what you are asking for will arrive at the exact moment your heart is finally ready. And sometimes Allah delays because what you are asking for will arrive in a different form that protects you even more. Either way, the waiting is never meaningless. If you are in this season right now, praying, hoping, waiting, hurting, do not let shaitan convince you that Allah has turned away. Allah is closer to you now than you realize. He is teaching you patience, so your faith becomes unshakable. He is teaching you trust, so your heart remains calm, even when life is uncertain. And one day, when the answer finally comes, or when you understand why it didn't, you will look back at this delay and realize Allah was not ignoring you. He was preparing you. He was building a heart that could handle elevation without losing humility. And that is a gift far greater than speed. Allah reduces the noise around you. There comes a moment in life when everything around you becomes quieter. Not suddenly, not loudly, but slowly. You notice fewer messages, fewer calls, fewer voices around you. The noise that once filled your days starts to fade. At first, this feels strange because you were used to being surrounded. You were used to constant talking. You were used to distraction. And now there is space, silence, and silence can feel uncomfortable when you don't understand it. You sit alone more often. You think more than you speak. You reflect more than you react. And a quiet fear may rise in your heart. Why is my world getting smaller? Why do I feel distant from everything? Why do I feel alone even when nothing bad happened? Listen carefully. This is not Allah isolating you. This is Allah protecting you. When Allah wants to lift someone higher, He reduces the noise around their heart. Because a heart that is constantly distracted cannot hear guidance. And a heart that is always surrounded rarely listens to itself. So Allah begins by softening your environment. Not to punish you, not to empty your life, but to give you room to breathe. Before this stage, your mind was always busy. Someone always needed you. Something always demanded attention. Somewhere always pulled your focus. And you didn't even realize how tired your soul was becoming. So Allah intervenes gently. He removes unnecessary conversations. He removes shallow connections. He removes constant stimulation. And suddenly, your heart has space. This silence feels heavy at first because you confuse it with loneliness. But loneliness hurts. This feels different. This feels calm, even though it feels unfamiliar. Allah knows that before He speaks to you, He must quiet everything else. Think about how Allah speaks to His servants. He does not shout over noise. He does not compete with distraction. Allah speaks to hearts that are still. So when your world becomes quieter, it is not because you are losing people. It is because Allah is gaining your attention. You begin to notice things you never noticed before. Your thoughts become clearer. Your prayers feel deeper. Your tears feel lighter. You start sitting with yourself without needing escape. You begin to understand your heart instead of ignoring it. This is not emptiness. This is clarity forming. Many people fear this stage because they think silence means abandonment. But Allah does not abandon those He loves. He withdraws them gently from noise that was slowly harming them. Some voices were loud, but not sincere. Some connections were frequent, but not nourishing. Some distractions were comforting, but not healing. So Allah removes them quietly, not all at once, not with drama, just enough so your heart can rest. You may notice that you no longer enjoy constant socializing. You no longer crave endless talking. You choose peace over explanation. This does not mean you hate people. It means you value your soul. Allah is teaching you something very important here. That your worth is not measured by how many people surround you. That your peace does not come from noise. That your strength does not require constant validation. This stage prepares you to stand firmly even when no one is clapping. Because elevation requires inner stability. If Allah kept your life loud, your heart would never settle. So He gives you quiet nights, calm mornings, simple routines. And slowly you realize something beautiful. You are not alone. Allah is with you. And His presence is enough. If you are in this phase right now, where your life feels quieter than before, do not rush to fill the silence. Do not run back to noise. Sit with it. Let your heart adjust, because Allah is not reducing noise to empty your life. He is reducing noise to prepare you for a higher calling. And when the time comes to bring people back, to bring opportunities back, to bring responsibility back. You will be ready, calm, grounded, and strong. Because silence was not punishment, it was preparation. You stop chasing people, approval, and explanation. There comes a quiet moment in life when you realize you are tired, not tired of people themselves, but tired of chasing. Tired of explaining your heart, tired of proving your intentions, tired of running after approval that never truly fills you. At first, you don't notice it clearly. You just feel a strange heaviness whenever you have to explain yourself again. You feel drained when you try to make people understand you. You feel empty after seeking validation that disappears quickly and slowly without making a decision, and you stop. Not in anger, not in pride, but in peace. You stop sending the extra message. You stop justifying your choices. You stop correcting misunderstandings that Allah already understands. And this feels uncomfortable at first because you were used to chasing, you were used to fixing things. You were used to holding relationships together. You were used to being the one who tries harder. So when you stop, your heart whispers questions. Am I becoming selfish? Am I giving up too easily? Am I wrong for not explaining myself anymore? But listen carefully. This is not you becoming cold. This is Allah teaching your heart that not every misunderstanding needs your energy, that not every opinion deserves your response, that not every person needs access to your inner world. Allah is showing you something important. Those who truly care do not need constant explanations. Those meant to stay do not need to be chased. Those written for you will understand you without you breaking yourself. So Allah gently removes the urge to run after people, not because people are bad, but because your heart deserves rest. This stage feels lonely at first because you confuse peace with distance. But this distance is not emptiness. It is safety. Think about how much energy you used to spend trying to be understood, trying to be liked, trying to be accepted. You carried emotional weight that was never meant to be yours. You stayed longer than you should have. You explained more than you needed to. You apologized even when you were not wrong. And Allah watched all of it. So when Allah decides to lift you higher, He frees you from this burden. He teaches you that your worth is not decided by how many people approve of you, that your value does not increase when others clap for you, that your sincerity does not disappear when people misunderstand you. This is why you stop chasing. Not because you don't care, but because you finally trust Allah to handle what you cannot control. You realize something powerful. If Allah knows your intention, you don't need to convince the world. If Allah sees your heart, you don't need to explain yourself to everyone. If Allah is pleased with you, no amount of rejection can break you. This stage changes how you move through life. You speak less, but with purpose. You explain less, but with confidence. You choose peace over being right. And some people will notice this change. They may say you've become distant. They may say you've changed. They may say you are not the same anymore. They are right. You are no longer desperate. You are no longer chasing. You are no longer begging for understanding. Allah has replaced that urge with calm trust. And that calm trust is a sign of elevation. Because those Allah raises do not need constant approval. They are steady. They are grounded. They are secure. If you are in this phase right now where you no longer feel the need to chase people, to explain your heart, to prove your intentions, do not fight it. Allah is not making you lonely. He is making you strong. He is teaching you to walk with dignity, to speak with intention, and to rest your heart in His acceptance alone. And that kind of peace cannot be shaken. There is something very powerful about the moment you stop chasing. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly. You wake up one day and realize you no longer feel the urge to run after people who keep walking away. You no longer feel the need to send long messages explaining what you meant. You no longer replay conversations in your head, wondering how you could have said things differently so they would understand you. That weight slowly leaves your chest. And at first, this feels unfamiliar because chasing was once your habit. You thought love meant effort without limits. You thought loyalty meant constant explaining. You thought patience meant staying silent even when it hurt. But Allah teaches you something deeper. He shows you that chasing people who do not value you is not patience. It is self-neglect. And Allah does not elevate a servant by teaching them to abandon themselves. So He gently removes the need to chase, not by making you angry, not by filling you with bitterness, but by giving you clarity. You begin to see how much of your energy was spent trying to be chosen, how much of your heart was spent trying to be understood, how many nights you carried confusion that was never meant to be yours. And instead of blaming others, you feel relief. Relief that you no longer have to run. Relief that you no longer have to prove. Relief that you no longer have to beg for space in someone's heart. Allah replaces desperation with dignity. He replaces anxiety with calm. He replaces over-explaining with quiet confidence. You still care, but you no longer collapse for connection. You still love, but you no longer lose yourself. This is not coldness. This is maturity guided by Allah. And something beautiful happens here. You start trusting Allah with outcomes you once tried to control. You stop forcing people to stay. You stop forcing conversations to work. You stop forcing closure. You realize that what is meant for you will not require you to chase it endlessly. What belongs to you will meet you halfway. What Allah writes for you will arrive without you bleeding for it. And suddenly, your heart becomes lighter. You still walk forward, but without desperation. You still speak, but without fear of misunderstanding. You still connect, but without attaching your worth to someone else's response. This is the stage where Allah is teaching you to stand firm even when misunderstood. Because the higher Allah takes you, the fewer explanations you will need. Not everyone will understand your silence. Not everyone will understand your distance. Not everyone will understand your calm, but Allah does, and that is enough. If you feel this change happening inside you, where you no longer chase, no longer beg, no longer exhaust yourself, do not fight it. Allah is not making you lonely. He is teaching you self-respect. He is teaching you trust. He is teaching you that peace does not come from being chosen by people. Peace comes from knowing you are already chosen by Allah. And when the heart truly understands that, it rests. The dunya feels lighter and the akhirah feels closer. You feel changed, even if nothing around you has changed. There comes a stage in life that is very difficult to explain to others. Because when people look at you, they see the same person. You live in the same place. You walk the same roads. You face the same responsibilities. Nothing around you looks different. And yet, inside, you are not the same. Something has changed so deeply that even you sometimes pause and wonder how it happened. You didn't make a big decision. You didn't announce a transformation. You didn't wake up one day and decide to become someone new. The change came quietly, so quietly that only your heart noticed. You respond differently now. Things that once triggered you no longer pull the same reaction. Things that once made you panic now make you pause. Things that once broke you now hurt but don't destroy you. And this surprises you because you remember how sensitive you once were, how reactive you once were, how deeply things affected you. But now there is a strange calm, not because life became easier, but because your heart became steadier. You still feel pain, you still feel sadness, you still feel disappointment, but you don't drown in it anymore. You feel it and then you breathe. You allow it and then you trust. You carry it without collapsing under it. This is not numbness. This is strength Allah built slowly. Before the stage, your heart used to resist reality. You fought what happened. You replayed moments again and again. You asked why until your chest felt heavy. But now your heart has learned something new. Acceptance. Not the kind that gives up, the kind that trusts. You no longer waste energy fighting what Allah already allowed. You don't like everything. You don't agree with everything. But you no longer break yourself trying to control what is beyond you. And this is a powerful shift because it means Your heart has stopped arguing with Allah's wisdom. You still make dua, you still ask, you still hope, but beneath all of that, there is surrender, a quiet surrender. You say, Ya Allah, I don't understand everything, but I trust you. And that trust changes how you live. You don't rush the future anymore. You don't panic about timing. You don't feel behind in life the way you used to. You realize that Allah's plan was never late. It was precise. This understanding did not come overnight. It came from heartbreaks that didn't destroy you, from delays that didn't kill your hope, from nights you thought would break you but didn't. Allah was reshaping you in those moments. You may not have seen it then, but now you feel it. Your heart is stronger. Not louder, not harder, stronger. You speak less now, but when you speak, your words carry weight. You listen more, you observe more, you react less, not because you don't care, but because you have learned where your energy belongs. You no longer explain yourself to everyone, not because you are hiding, but because you are at peace. You no longer feel the need to defend your healing. You no longer feel the need to prove your growth. Because real change does not need validation. It shows in silence. People may not notice it right away. They may think you are just quieter, more distant, more reserved. They don't know that Allah rebuilt you on the inside. They don't know how many nights you cried quietly, how many prayers you whispered alone, how many times you held on when you wanted to fall apart. Allah knows, and that is enough. The stage is special because it is invisible. It is not loud like success. It is not obvious like achievement. It is internal. And internal change lasts the longest. You now trust Allah even when you don't feel strong. You now remain calm even when things are uncertain. You now keep moving forward even when the path is unclear, because Allah has taught your heart how to stand without leaning on fear. You no longer chase closure. You no longer demand answers. You no longer need everything to make sense. You allow Allah to handle what you cannot, and that releases a weight you didn't even know you were carrying. This is why your heart feels different. This is why your reactions have softened. This is why you feel grounded even when life shakes. Allah didn't change your surroundings. He changed you quietly, patiently, mercifully. And when Allah changes a person from the inside, the world outside loses its power to break them. This is not the end of your journey. This is preparation, because Allah only builds this level of inner strength in hearts. He plans to trust with more responsibility, more impact, more depth. And when that time comes, you will realize why Allah had to change you first. As this inner change settles deeper, you begin to notice how quietly it guides your life. You do not announce it. You do not explain it. You simply move differently. Where you once reacted quickly, you now pause. Where you once spoke immediately, you now listen. Where you once defended yourself, you now stay calm. And this calm is not weakness. It is control Allah placed inside your heart. You no longer feel the need to rush decisions. You no longer feel pressured to match other people's timelines. You no longer feel anxious about being understood by everyone, because something inside you knows that Allah already understands you completely. This realization brings a deep kind of peace. You start accepting yourself without constantly correcting yourself. You stop apologizing for needing rest. You stop feeling guilty for choosing silence. You stop questioning whether your healing is too slow. You realize Allah never rushes what He perfects. Before this stage, you used to carry many fears. Fear of losing, fear of being left behind, fear of being misunderstood, fear of failure. But now, those fears feel smaller. They still whisper sometimes, but they no longer control you. You acknowledge them, then you release them, because your heart has learned that fear does not protect you. Trust does. And Allah slowly taught you that through experience, through moments when you thought you would not survive, but you did. Through situations you thought would define you, but they didn't. Through delays you thought were endings, but they were openings. Allah was teaching your heart how to stay steady without needing guarantees. This is why you feel change now. You are no longer desperate for certainty. You are comfortable with trusting Allah one step at a time. You don't need to see the whole staircase. One step is enough. And this trust reshapes your character. You become gentler with people. Not because they are perfect, but because you understand pain better now. You become patient with mistakes. Not because you tolerate harm, but because you know healing is a process. You become firm with boundaries. Not because you are cold, but because you value what Allah healed. Your heart now knows what it can carry and what it must release. This awareness is a gift. You no longer attach your worth to outcomes. If something works, you thank Allah. If something fails, you thank Allah. Not because failure feels good, but because you know Allah never lets effort go unseen. You stop comparing your path. You stop measuring your growth against other people's lives. You understand now that Allah gives each soul what it needs, not what looks impressive to others. This understanding gives you confidence without arrogance, humility without insecurity, strength without hardness. You still dream, you still plan, you still hope, but you are no longer controlled by the fear of what if, because your heart now trusts that whatever Allah allows will ultimately lead you closer to Him. And that is the greatest safety. This stage does not make you loud. It makes you anchored, anchored in faith, anchored in patience, anchored in purpose. You are no longer shaken by small storms. You may bend, but you do not break. And Allah does not give this steadiness to every heart. He gives it to hearts that passed through fire and came out softer, not bitter. He gives it to hearts that cried in private and still chose hope. He gives it to hearts that surrendered without giving up. If you feel this change in yourself, this quiet strength, this calm resilience, this steady trust, do not underestimate it. This is not accidental. This is Allah preparing you for a higher level of responsibility, because those who influence others, guide others, or carry weight in the world must first be stable on the inside. Allah strengthens you privately before He uses you publicly. And one day, when your life begins to shift on the outside, you will realize why Allah had to change you first. So that when things rise, your heart stays grounded. So that when blessings arrive, your soul stays grateful. So that when trials return, your faith stays intact. Allah did not change your surroundings because that would not last. He changed you. And when Allah changes a person from within, that change carries them through every season of life. This is not the end. This is the foundation. And Allah builds strong foundations before He raises anything high. As this inner strength becomes part of you, you start noticing how differently you handle moments that once would have shaken you. When something goes wrong now, your heart does not immediately panic. You still feel the weight, you still feel the disappointment, but you don't fall apart. There is a pause inside you, a small space between what happens and how you respond. And in that space, Allah places calm. You think before you react, you breathe before you speak, you turn to Allah before turning to fear. This is not something you learned from a book. This is something Allah taught you through experience, through moments when you had no control, through times when you had no answers, through nights when you had nothing except dua. Allah was training your heart to stay steady even when life is uncertain. And now that training is showing. You are not rushing to escape discomfort anymore. Before, you wanted everything fixed quickly. You wanted clarity immediately. You wanted relief now. But now, you allow the moment to exist without fighting it. You trust that Allah is working even when you cannot see results. This patience does not make you passive. It makes you resilient. You continue moving forward but without desperation. You continue trying but without panic. You continue hoping but without clinging. And this balance is something very rare. Most people either give up or exhaust themselves. But Allah taught you how to stay steady in the middle. You also begin to notice how your heart treats people differently now. You are kinder, but you are not careless. You listen more, but you do not absorb everything. You help when you can, but you do not empty yourself. You have learned that protecting your heart is not selfish. It is necessary. Allah healed you in a way that made you more aware, not more closed. You no longer rush to fix people. You no longer carry guilt for problems that are not yours. You understand now that guidance belongs to Allah. Your role is sincerity, not control. This understanding brings relief. You stop blaming yourself for outcomes you could not change. You stop replaying the past to punish yourself. You accept that you did your best with what you knew at the time. And that acceptance is a form of healing. You also notice that your relationship with Allah feels more personal now, not louder, not more emotional, but more real. You speak to Him honestly. You admit when you are tired. You admit when you are confused. And you no longer feel ashamed of that, because you know Allah does not expect perfection. He loves sincerity. This connection grounds you. It reminds you that no matter how much you change, Allah remains constant. People may misunderstand you. Life may surprise you. Plan may shift. But Allah does not change. And that knowledge becomes your anchor. If you look back now, you realize how far you've come, not in achievements, not in status, but in stability. You no longer collapse under emotional pressure. You no longer lose yourself in chaos. You bend, but you do not break. And this quiet strength is not visible to everyone, but it is visible to Allah. And that is what matters. Because Allah does not elevate people based on how impressive they look on the outside. He elevates them based on how stable they are on the inside. And your heart is becoming stable, steady, rooted. This is not an ending. This is the stage where Allah knows you can be trusted with more. As the steadiness becomes natural to you, you begin to recognize a quiet confidence that was never there before. Not confidence that speaks loudly, not confidence that needs attention, but confidence that rests. You walk into situations now without rehearsing who you need to be. You speak without worrying how every word will be received. You make choices without needing constant reassurance, because your heart has learned that approval does not create peace. Alin Manduz, you start noticing that even when people misunderstand you, you don't rush to correct the picture. You let Allah handle what people think. This does not mean you don't care. It means you care in the right place. You care about your intention. You care about your sincerity. You care about staying honest with Allah. And that changes how you carry yourself. You are no longer pulled apart by every opinion. You are no longer shaken by every reaction. You listen, you reflect, and then you choose what to keep, because your heart now knows not every voice deserves space inside you. This is a sign of maturity Allah plants quietly. You also begin to trust your inner sense more. Before you doubted yourself often, you questioned your feelings. You ignored your intuition. But now you pause and listen. You recognize when something feels off. You recognize when something brings peace. And you don't argue with that feeling anymore, because Allah trained your heart to recognize truth gently. This does not make you perfect. You still make mistakes. You still learn. You still adjust. But you no longer attack yourself for being human. You treat yourself with mercy, because you understand how much Allah showed you mercy. That understanding softens you. You stop being harsh with your own heart. You stop punishing yourself for not being where you thought you would be by now. You realize Allah's plan did not fall behind. It unfolded slowly, carefully, exactly as needed. And when setbacks come, because they still come, you don't see them as signs of failure. You see them as pauses, moments to breathe, moments to reflect, moments to realign. You no longer interpret hardship as abandonment. You interpret it as guidance in disguise. This does something powerful to your soul. It removes fear from the future. Not because the future is clear, but because Allah is. You begin living with a quiet hope. Not hope tied to outcomes, but hope tied to trust. You say, whatever comes, Allah will help me carry it. And that sentence alone changes everything. Your heart stops bracing for impact. It starts standing upright. You walk through life with softness and strength together. You don't harden yourself to survive. You don't lose your kindness to cope. Allah taught you how to be gentle without being weak, and strong without being harsh. This balance is rare. And Allah does not give it to every heart. He gives it to hearts that were willing to be shaped, willing to wait, willing to surrender, willing to grow quietly. If you are feeling this inside you now, this calm presence, this grounded sense of self, this steady trust, recognize it. This is not ordinary. This is Allah preparing you to walk through bigger things without losing yourself. Because the higher Allah takes someone, the more stable their heart must be. And your heart is becoming stable, rooted, ready. As this inner stability becomes part of who you are, you start noticing something very subtle. You are no longer trying to escape yourself. Before, silence used to scare you. Being alone with your thoughts felt heavy. You looked for noise to distract your mind. But now, you can sit quietly without needing to fill the space. You can be alone without feeling lonely. You can slow down without feeling guilty. This is a sign that your heart has finally found a safe place to rest, and that place is trust in Allah. You are no longer fighting who you are becoming. You accept that growth takes time. You accept that healing is not loud. You accept that strength does not always look dramatic. This acceptance softens your days. You wake up without carrying the pressure to be someone else. You move through life without the constant urge to compare. You understand now that Allah is shaping you in a way that fits your journey, not someone else's. And this understanding brings dignity. You no longer rush to explain your pace. You no longer apologize for your timing. You no longer feel ashamed of your process, because Allah never rushes what He values. You begin to see your past differently now, not with regret, but with gratitude. You see how every delay taught you patience, how every loss taught you detachment, how every disappointment taught you reliance on Allah. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start saying, this shaped me. This shift is powerful because it turns pain into wisdom and wounds into guidance. You also become more careful with what you allow into your heart, not out of fear, but out of respect for the healing Allah gave you. You choose peace even when chaos is easier. You choose clarity even when confusion is popular. You choose Allah's pleasure even when shortcuts tempt you. This does not mean life becomes perfect. There are still hard days. There are still moments of doubt, but now you don't lose yourself in them. You pass through them and you come out with your heart intact. This is when you realize something deeply comforting. Allah never wanted you to be unbreakable. He wanted you to be flexible without losing your faith. He wanted you to bend without snapping. He wanted you to trust even when you did not understand. And now you can. You may not see where everything is going, but you are no longer afraid of that, because you know Allah sees the full picture. You know He will not abandon you halfway. You know He will not test you without also supporting you. This certainty settles deep inside you. It becomes your anchor. And from this place, you begin to live with purpose, not driven by fear, not driven by pressure, but driven by intention. You do things because they matter, not because they impress. You say no without feeling cruel. You say yes without feeling forced. Your heart is finally aligned. And when a heart reaches this stage, Allah begins to trust it with bigger responsibilities. Because a heart that is calm, rooted, and sincere can carry weight without being crushed. If you feel the steadiness now, this quiet readiness, this gentle strength, this settled trust, know that Allah did not bring you here by accident. Every step mattered, every tear counted, every weight was purposeful. Allah was shaping you into someone who could walk forward without losing themselves. And that is one of the greatest forms of elevation. There comes a quiet stage in life when the world around you starts to feel lighter, not because you escaped it, not because your responsibilities disappeared, but because your heart no longer carries it the same way. You still wake up and work, you still plan, you still worry sometimes, but the panic is gone, the desperation is gone. The feeling that everything depends on this life slowly fades, and you don't even notice when it begins. You just realize one day that the things which once controlled your emotions no longer have the same power. Money still matters, but it does not own your peace. People still matter, but their opinions do not shake your heart. Success still matters, but failure no longer destroy you. This is a very quiet change, and it can be confusing because you ask yourself, why do I feel calm about things that once scared me? Why don't I react the way I used to? Why does the dunya feel lighter? This is not carelessness. This is clarity. Allah is slowly teaching your heart what truly deserves weight. Before this stage, your heart carried everything heavily. Every delay felt like a disaster. Every loss felt unbearable. Every reaction felt personal. But now, your heart has learned something deeper. That this life is temporary. That nothing here is permanent. That holding things too tightly only leads to pain. And Allah teaches this lesson not through lectures, but through lived experience, through disappointment, through waiting, through silence, through loss that didn't destroy you. Slowly, your heart adjusts. You stop seeing the dunya as something you must conquer at all costs. You start seeing it as something you pass through, and that changes everything. As the dunya becomes lighter, something else begins to feel closer. The akhirah, not in a frightening way, not in a distant, abstract way, but in a comforting way. You think about Allah more easily. You remember Him more naturally. You turn to Him more often. Not only when you are desperate, but even when you are calm. Your prayers feel different. You are not just asking for things anymore. You are speaking to Allah. You sit with Him. You complain gently. You thank Him quietly, and you realize that this connection brings a peace the dunya never could. You still want good in this life. You still make dua for success. You still try your best, but your heart is no longer attached to outcomes. If it comes, you are grateful. If it doesn't, you are steady. This balance is a sign Allah is lifting you, because the dunya no longer dictates your emotional state. You are no longer constantly afraid of losing. You are no longer constantly chasing more. You understand now that what misses you was never written for you, and what reaches you could never have been stopped. This realization brings rest. You stop measuring your worth by worldly milestones. You stop comparing your journey to others. You stop rushing Allah's plan, because your heart knows that the real meeting is not here. And that thought does not make you sad. It makes you focused. You live better. You speak kinder. You forgive easier. Not because you are weak, but because you are aware that every moment counts. This world becomes a field, not a throne. A place to plant deeds, not a place to settle forever. And Allah does not give this understanding to every heart. He gives it to hearts. He wants to protect. If you feel this shift, where the dunya feels lighter and thoughts of Allah feel closer, do not fight it. Allah is not pulling you away from life. He is teaching you how to live without being owned by it. He is teaching you how to walk through this world with calm steps and a steady heart. And this is one of the greatest signs that Allah is guiding you higher. Because when the heart is no longer trapped by the dunya, it becomes free. And a free heart is ready for elevation. As this change deepens, you begin to notice something else. Your heart no longer rushes the way it used to. You still care, you still hope, you still plan, but there is no panic underneath it. You no longer feel that tight pressure in your chest that says, if this doesn't happen, everything is over. That voice grows quiet. And in its place comes a gentle trust. You start saying, if Allah gives it, Alhamdulillah. If He delays it, Alhamdulillah. If He takes it away, Alhamdulillah. Not because it is easy, but because your heart now understands that Allah never takes without replacing. Before this stage, you were afraid of losing people, afraid of losing comfort, afraid of losing opportunities. But now, that fear loosens its grip. You realize that you have already lost things before and survived. You have already been disappointed and healed. You have already waited and grown stronger. So the dunya no longer feels like a fragile glass that could shatter your entire life. It feels like a temporary stop. And this understanding does not make you lazy. It makes you sincere. You do good because it is right, not because you want recognition. You work hard because effort is worship, not because you are desperate for praise. You help others quietly because you know Allah sees, even when no one thanks you. Your heart starts craving dates more than applause. And slowly, the akhirah stops feeling far away. It feels close. Not in a way that makes you scared, but in a way that makes you careful. You become more aware of your words. You become more gentle in your actions. You become more patient with people. Not because you are weak, but because you know this life is not worth carrying grudges for. You forgive more easily now. Not because people deserve it, but because your heart deserves peace. You let go faster. Not because you stop caring, but because you trust Allah's justice more than your own anger. This is a beautiful stage, but it is also a quiet one. Most people will not notice this change in you. They will just see that you react less, that you argue less, that you complain less. They may think you became distant. They don't know your heart has simply become anchored in something higher. You are no longer living only for what is visible. You are living for what lasts. And when a person reaches this stage, Allah begins to prepare them for responsibilities they could not handle before. Because a heart attached too tightly to the dunya breaks easily. But a heart connected to the akhirah remains steady, even when the world shakes. If you feel this happening inside you, this calm, this balance, this lighter grip on the dunya, do not feel guilty. You are not becoming careless. You are becoming conscious. Allah is not pulling your heart away from life. He is placing it where it belongs, closer to Him. And when a heart is closer to Allah, the dunya loses its power. It becomes something you walk through, not something you drown in. And that is one of the clearest signs that Allah is guiding you higher. Because when the heart learns that the akhirah is real, the dunya finally becomes manageable. And the soul finally rests. As this feeling settles deeper, you begin to live differently without forcing yourself. You still walk in the same streets. You still sit with the same responsibilities. You still face the same tests. But your heart is no longer fighting reality. Before, you used to ask, why is this happening to me? Now you quietly say, Ya Allah, help me respond correctly. That shift is powerful because it means your heart is no longer obsessed with control. You stop trying to bend the dunya to match your desires. Instead, you ask Allah to align your heart with His wisdom. And suddenly, life feels less heavy. Not easier, but lighter. You stop measuring your success by how fast things happen. You stop measuring your worth by what others achieve. You stop measuring happiness by what you can hold. You begin measuring everything by peace. If something brings peace, you keep it. If something steals peace, you release it. And you no longer feel guilty for choosing calm over chaos. This is not weakness. This is spiritual maturity. Your heart now understands that chasing the dunya endlessly never satisfies. No matter how much you gain, there is always more to want. But when your heart connects to Allah, contentment grows quietly. You start enjoying simple moments. Silence no longer scares you. Waiting no longer terrifies you. Uncertainty no longer crushes you. Because your heart is no longer standing alone. It is leaning on Allah. You begin trusting that whatever is written for you will arrive on time. Not early, not late, on time. And this trust changes how you face hardship. When something goes wrong, you feel the pain, but you don't lose yourself. When something leaves, you feel the loss, but you don't collapse. When something is delayed, you feel the weight, but you don't despair. Because deep inside, your heart knows this life is temporary. This realization doesn't make you careless. It makes you careful. Careful with your words. Careful with your intentions. Careful with your actions. You become more aware that every moment counts. That every kindness matters. That every hardship carries meaning. You begin treating people differently. You don't rush to judge. You don't rush to react. You don't rush to hold grudges because you know you will not carry any of this with you forever. And when you remember that, forgiveness becomes easier. Patience becomes deeper. Gratitude becomes natural. This is why the akhirah feels closer now. Not as a distant idea, but as a real destination. A place you are slowly preparing for. A place that gives meaning to everything you are going through now. And Allah does not give this awareness to every heart. He gives it to hearts He wants to protect from being crushed by the dunya. So if you feel this calm inside you, this lighter grip, this deeper trust, this quieter heart, do not fear it. You are not losing ambition. You are gaining direction. You are not giving up on life. You are learning how to live without being owned by it. And that is a sign Allah is lifting you gently, steadily, and safely. Because when the dunya no longer controls your heart, your soul finally has space to rise. And now, before you leave, I want you to sit with this feeling for a moment. Not the sadness, not the confusion, but the calm that quietly replaced it. Because if you listened until now, it means something inside you already understands. You were never broken. You were never falling behind. You were never forgotten. Allah was guiding you in a way that did not need noise. Everything you felt, the silence, the detachment, the patience, the quiet strength, it was never random. Allah was teaching your heart how to stand before He asked it to carry more. That is why He slowed you down. That is why He reduced the noise. That is why He changed you before changing your life. Because when Allah elevates someone, He does not rush them, He strengthens them. So if tonight you feel calmer than before, if your heart feels a little lighter, if your worries feel quieter, that is Allah saying, you're safe now. I'm handling it. You don't need to force the future. You don't need to chase clarity. You don't need to fear what's coming. What is written for you is already moving toward you at the right time. And what left was never meant to stay. So rest your heart, not because life is easy, but because Allah is near. If this message reached you late at night, when the world is quiet and thoughts are heavy, know this: Allah did not bring you here by accident. He brought you here to remind you that you are still under His care, and you always will be. May Allah protect your heart. May He guide you gently. May He elevate you without breaking you. And may He give you peace that does not depend on circumstances. Ameen.